Hi, my name is Antonio Butler, and I'm here to present my information on head collisions and impact in relation to sports. Introduction. Trinity College reported research on the impact of repetitive head trauma and collisions and the effects. On the right, I have two different sports specified. These two sports, in my opinion, are the two that have a large impact on repeated head trauma and collisions. The first being MMA, the second being football. I also chose both of these sports because I have participated in them at some point in time in my life. Give you a little background information about MMA. MMA is stands for mixed martial arts, and it comprises of different fighting styles like around the entire world. So, Jeet Kune Do, Taekwondo, Brazilian capoeira, things like that, Muay Thai, and the people who are professional in mixed martial arts compete in leagues such as the UFC and Bellator, almost as synonymous as like the NBA and NFL for mixed martial arts. More background information about football. Football is becoming, well, it already has become one of the nation's largest sports. Even so, the fact that kids are able to play this at a very young age, the football market is geared around 5 year olds until you get to the professional level. So think about the amount of hits that someone can take at age 5 all the way up to like age 30 if they're actually good enough to get into the NFL. It's about the game. Head trauma and combat in sports are the epicenter of brain neurology. This basically means that these sports are the main casualty, or not, I wouldn't say casualty, but the main catalyst in brain neurology and just study of the brain. Studies have gone back ages and continuously improve now about how the repetitiveness of head trauma affects the brain. These studies have been included with MRI screens for various players and various athletes over the years, and it can show you the amount of damage is done after a long career or even a short career of either sport, MMA or football. Also, as the NHL, that's another sport that's heavy in trauma. More about the game. These injuries sustained affect the capillaries in the brain and the nervous system. These are the veins that deliver blood to your head and that allow you to function properly. Without blood flow to your head, one person can get dizzy, concussions, fainting, all that stuff. And during anytime you get an MRI screening, anytime you have like a headache or a concussion in a game, you have to go through a protocol, and you have to get an MRI done to see if you can even get back into the game or into the fight. These MRIs can determine the amount of damage to any vein, artery, any nervous system in your brain, and it also can tell you the amount of concussions that a player has had before and after the MRI is done. Like, what I mean by after is like it probably can predict the amount of concussions that someone can get if they continuously play this sport or such. Into the game. The usage of MRIs has greatly improved the way that impact is done, because with new technology, we can now understand the effects of repeated blows to the head in any sport, and we can understand how it affects the brain long term as well as short term. Short term, you can have memory loss, concussions, you can have eye soreness. I know personally, in my experience, I used to play football when I was younger in PAL, so we used to have contact limits too, because we were only kids and we could only hit on certain days. But I sustained a concussion when I was younger, but I wasn't understanding of what a concussion was. So days I would not remember what was going on, or I have like resistance to big flashing lights, and I still feel like that affects me to today because I get migraines, and when I do get these migraines, I am very sensitive to light. And like it says in the bullet right here, like I said before, football and MMA are the biggest abusers of head trauma, because in football you're running at each other full speed, full contact, and in order to hit another person, you have to dip your head down, which allows different body parts to basically bang against your head, and because you're wearing a helmet, your head's gonna slide across and inside the helmet, creating more friction and damage. And along with MMA, you're wearing no hair protection, no headgear at all if you're fighting professionally, and the goal basically is to beat up the other person as much as you physically possibly can and win. So that's just gonna increase the amount of trauma that's gonna be able to be done to a person. To conclude, the point that I've made about this presentation is that the the college is doing a lot of research about the effects of head trauma in across all combat sports. Although I've only focused on football and MMA, other combat sports can be the NHL hockey, because it's almost football esque, but you're skating on ice. Soccer also has a big play in this too because of the use of headers. It's a move where you hit the ball with your head. Those can also lead to concussions and dizziness and all this stuff because you're using your head as the vessel to send the ball away as a projectile. And um, through time and through the advancement of technology and the medical system, we have been able to improve MRI scans, MRI screening, and treatment of head trauma and these concussions that these players are getting. Now, here's a little fun fact about what I was talking about earlier when in terms of football. The amount of injuries that happen in football are related to practice, because you practice Monday through Friday and your games are typically on Saturday or Sunday, depending on if you're in the NFL or if you're a college athlete or a high school athlete. The amount of times you're practicing with full pads on. With you practicing with full pads on, you're hitting each other repeatedly over a 2-hour practice. Thus, you're getting all this minor head trauma, and it's going to compound on its own throughout the week. That you're probably going to have concussions in practice. You're probably going to have basically nerve damage all in practice before you even get to the game. And that's what I was talking about earlier with myself when I played PAL when I was younger, because we used to practice a lot for 3 hours, 5 to 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday, and we used to have full contact. We used to have full contact practices, and what that means is you have all your pads on and you're hitting each other in every drill, in every practice, and even in scrimmages. Now, what the regulation has become, because of all these injuries in practice, the regulation has become that you only are restricted to 1 day of full contact practices, and you can only practice for a certain amount of time. You only practice for 2 hours, and you can only have a full contact practice for 1 day, because they're trying to minimize all these injuries. And another reason why I also brought up MMA is because I myself have trained in Muay Thai for 2 years, and I know firsthand the effects that head trauma can give you when you are fighting in any type of professional or amateur way. Thank you for your time.